What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint post-show edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. WWE SummerSlam 2020 just ended, so we are going to give you our full breakdown of the results, recap everything that happened on the show, a review of what happened, and so on and so forth. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me, as always, are Robert D. Felice.
I'm tired.
So am I, and Callum Wiggins.
I never saw this coming.
What, us being tired, or what?
Just the post show in general.
We've never done a post show after a pay-per-view.
Yeah, I know it's weird. It's just like
it's the longest running thing in a while, I think.
Yeah.
Well, if you have been following us for a long time and you did see it coming the way we'd be doing this show, then you should know how this works right now. But if you don't, then here's a couple little reminders. One thing being that I want to know what you have to say about this pay-per-view and everything else that's going to come out from this discussion in the comments section below. So if you are listening to us on something like a Spotify or an iTunes or whatever platform, first off, let me know if it's working. Well, technically speaking, let me know if it's not working. I know somebody earlier today messaged me saying that they couldn't get anything with the Google and the iTunes feeds for Fanboys Anonymous, and I know that I've been having some issues here and there with some different things that are completely just random. So sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. Smark Moment seems like it's working okay for me right now, but if it's not, let me know. And obviously, all those platforms that don't have a comment section, you can't leave a comment on. So leave a star rating or a follow or whatever they have on those kind of things, and hop on over to some kind of platform that does have that. One of them being that you can tweet at SmarkOutMoment. You should follow us on there while you are at it. You can post something on the page on smarkoutmoment.com that you have the results for this, or the page that we're putting up this podcast. You can go on the Facebook, or the best thing out of all of it is to go to the video itself on YouTube. And while you're leaving your comment there, hit the like button, hit that applause button if you want to really show some support for this and donate a little bit of the spare change that you've got towards helping us out here. And hit the subscribe button if you haven't done that already. Hit the bell button to ring that for notifications. Just hit all the buttons, essentially. Except for the dislike. Don't do that one. That one's not good. But all the other buttons. Just click buttons all over the place. And, we got lots of different ways for you to interact with us like that. Eventually, we do live things here and there. So if you subscribe and you do the little notification bell, then you know when we have videos up and you know when we go live for things. So keep that in mind for the future because, eventually we're going to be doing another mailbag and eventually who knows what else we're going to be doing. So let's dive into some of these things before we start bouncing around too much all over the place here. Let's go with the kickoff, which was one of those solid hours, 6 to 7 instead of the 2-hour one. Thankfully, they don't do the 2-hour ones lately anymore. No need to at this point, especially with a smaller card than what SummerSlam and some other of those Big Force events have had over the past few years. But they acknowledged that Renee Young is leaving, so that's totally just 100% out there now. And not really much of a send-off, but at least they acknowledged it. I kind of liked that.
Yeah, I felt they had snuck it in real early to the point where I missed it and actually had to go back and listen to her say it was her last hurrah. It's kind of sad, just because I feel like she was the voice of WWE for a while, at least in a backstage capacity, and I'm going to miss her. She brings a lot of personality to things, and the personalities, by the way, I don't usually like the round tables. They had a lot of fun with this one. I enjoyed watching all of them.
Yeah, it was very just...
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it was very subdued. Just pretty by the numbers departure for Renee Young, just letting us know straight out the gate. And I can't say that I actually listened to any of the post show because I saw JBL and Pete Rosenberg were on it, and so I immediately hit mute until the match came on. So, but yeah, at least they acknowledged it and just cut and dry. She's out after the show.
I think my favorite thing was that they were reviewing the Mandy Sonya match, and they said, well, what's worse, losing your hair or losing your job? And Renee just goes, I guess I'm going to find out.
Yeah, I enjoyed some of the little banter here and there. I liked JBL's little appearance. I'm glad that they acknowledged the fact that he should have been a Hall of Famer at this point. And he's like, yeah, I go to the Hall of Fame, the whole world goes to hell. It's like, it makes sense. But,
yeah, another really good one. Booker T kept picking on Charlie.
Yeah.
God, nobody likes you, Charlie.
we never had these problems with Ray. Kind of thing. Just some fun little stuff. Nothing really all that crazy. Shayna Baszler popped up to remind everybody for the 5th time that she wants the next title match for whoever wins between Asuka and Sasha Banks, and nothing really groundbreaking on that end of things. But instead of carrying on throughout the whole rest of the night, bouncing around here and there, I do want to kind of just skip to something, and then we can go match by match. This is something that has nothing to do with the kickoff. It's later on. They just put it out there, but I figured let's throw interstitial type stuff out there too. They acknowledged that Keith Lee is going to be on Monday Night Raw tomorrow night.
Tomorrow, like just right away.
Just, hey, Keith Lee's going to Raw. They didn't say Keith Lee's coming to the Raw roster. It didn't say like Keith Lee's been drafted to Raw. Just Keith Lee's going to be on Raw.
Yeah, just Raw has no limits. So I guess
Yeah.
that means Keith Lee is... Well, Triple H then tweeted Keith Lee is going to begin the Limitless era on Raw. So hats off to Keith Lee. Went from North American champion to NXT champion to Raw superstar in like a month. Great for him. I thought it was a commercial for Raw Underground at first, because I just see it says Raw has no limits, and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
like, Raw Underground, no rules? But I like this. I like that he's on Raw, and NXT is definitely going to get an infusion of fresh faces.
What do you think about this whole thing, Callum?
I just hope they have something for him. I mean, it should be a good move just because Keith Lee's great, but we know that people who are extremely talented, when they get called up to the main roster, if they don't actually have anything in mind for them, they just let them meander facing random jobbers from week to week with no real story, any sort of projection of where they're going, then it doesn't really matter. We just hope they have a plan in mind for what they actually want to do with him. And at the moment, there doesn't seem to be any clear trajectory for him on Raw. Not that there would be on SmackDown either, but obviously I'm excited for him to come up, and hopefully that proves me wrong, but it's just a case of, I don't see him going into a feud for any champions right now, because both male singles champions are baby faces. And
he can eat the Retribution members. Like, if they stay as small as they've been, he can basically just walk right through them.
Yeah, but I don't. What does that really accomplish? Because they haven't been established as a threat or as anything to really care about at this point in time, beyond the fact that they're just being pushed, but nobody really takes them seriously. So him just squashing a bunch of them. I mean, my biggest worry is that he goes on to Raw tomorrow and then he's fighting the Ninjas in a 3-on-1 handicap match or something like that.
What if he just goes into Raw Underground?
Stupid as well.
Here's another talking point. Did we get any reference at all to Raw Underground?
Why would we? It's SummerSlam.
Just to acknowledge the fact that it exists.
No,
just to, like,
that's
2 seconds to say...
That's what Raw's for.
That's what Raw is housing the thing, but I mean, like, they couldn't do literally anything?
Right. Callum's right. This one, that's what Raw... can't talk.
Well, why don't they always talk about Raw Underground on NXT or SmackDown then?
I mean, why not, if you have all this, like, repeat yourself 1,000 times, why not take one of those things that you've repeated yourself 1,000 times and just promote something different, you know? Like, I don't think we need, for instance, I've made this complaint for years, I don't think we need a pre-show that runs down the recap of all the things that you see each and every week from every single episode, because every episode of Raw and SmackDown, they recap what happened the previous week, and they do the thing, and then the next week they recap the previous 2 weeks, that kind of thing. I don't think we need a pre-show that goes through that, and then a video package that leads into that while they talk about the same things. Just to, these things aren't that complicated. But if you go a whole night and there's not even a single thing where it just says, like, hey, remember, like, Raw Underground's the thing we're doing. Check that out on Raw. 2 seconds. Like, I don't remember them saying a single thing like that tonight, and I'm wondering why they wouldn't want to do that, whereas at the same token, they're just sort of like, here's the difference maker. When we had that whole thing with Mickie James and Natalya, and they decided that the bigger focal point of that should be that for the second time in the night, they would tell you that Rey Mysterio was going to show up later with the whole Seth Rollins and Samoa Joe thing. That to me is like, okay, shit, you advertised that, then you advertised it, then you advertised it, now you're advertising it. I get it. Like, they do that kind of stuff, and then you get some other things, and it's like, people don't need to know about that major thing that's happening over on every Monday night. what? Like, I don't know. It's weird to me, especially because that goes into another topic here. No retribution tonight. None at all.
Oh, I guess we could talk about that now.
Well, I mean,
Um,
it doesn't apply to any matches to talk about during the matches, so because it didn't happen. It's just this is your big angle going on right now, and these guys look like dorks. They look like they're not only smaller than a lot of the other people on the roster, but there's no name attached to any of them, and they've already gotten to a point where they're not doing things, and they've gotten punked out and whatever. This is like the quickest I've seen something go from this should be a huge angle to wow, you've killed everything about this.
well, they didn't get punked out as bad as Braun Strowman, I promise. But uh, Retribution will be fine. They have Payback, Payback, Retribution, they're synonyms. We'll see them at Payback.
First of all, Retribution won't be fine. They were dead on arrival, so it doesn't matter anyway. It doesn't matter anyway.
I am trying to give them hope. These are like 5 or 20, or we don't know how many there are, but there's a lot of them, and they have no idea what they're doing.
And they suck pretty badly. And yeah, they have no idea what they're doing, and they won't have any idea what they're doing. And I imagine this angle will get dropped. Like, I think that at the moment, this Retribution is going to be dropped quicker than Raw Underground is. But in terms of their presence on the show, they got a video package trying to explain them, which I thought was stupid in the first place, because if this group is essentially causing havoc on the roster and they have no real explanation for being there, they haven't been called up, or they're just trying to take over WWE, as it were, then why would you spend time promoting them at all with a video package, trying to explain their actions or anything? Surely you try and distance yourself from them as much as possible.
Because however are we going to know that they're here if we don't get a fancy video package?
Well, you do something with them on this show. And it doesn't even need to be, it's not even a case of like it needs to be like this super big, like interrupt the main event or something on those lines, but they could have done something. Just turn the lights off at one point and get chased out of the building. Right. It would be shitty, but it's something.
At least it's something at that point. That's what I mean with even like the little Raw Underground thing. You don't need to make the Raw Underground people fight on SummerSlam, but if they say something like, hey, if you're interested in this, we got this going on. If they can plug Payback 3 times on the card, and they can plug completely random things, commercials for other stuff and whatever like that, they can mention Raw Underground. And if they're making this Retribution thing something, if you're going to put the time in to try to make an angle work, put the time in to try to make the angle work. Don't just have it disappear because you can't think of anything, I guess, for them to do. Or, I mean, we've gotten to a point now where they have gotten progressively less and less impactful. And it's been, what, like 3 weeks? They went from the very first night, they're torching stuff and like just wrecking things. The second night, it looks stupid, but they wreck the ring and they do the chainsaw bit, whatever. Then they start just kind of interfering a little bit here and there. Then they get like one segment at the beginning of the card and they mess around with the production truck and that's it. Then they get run off of SmackDown and now they don't exist. Like, wow, what a shitty group this is. This is like, we keep making these jokes that they seem like these little kid vandals. Well, they're the little kid vandals that got the cop pulled up and just went woo with the light real quick on his car, and then they ran home and they cried to their mom. Like awful that's the case. They really need to do something like immediately to make Retribution worth a damn, because people have been making fun of it longer than they should have already. This has been only a few weeks, and it's been a few weeks of people going, this is stupid.
I hope they don't just drop it, because I hate when things just disappear. I think that's really insulting, especially with an angle like this that has had time devoted to it and all that. But
there's 3 ways you can go about things like this. You either fix the problem, you turn into the skid, or you drop it. So you fix the problem. Well, you can't fix it by doing nothing like this. You have to, make them badasses and actually give people a reason to care. You turn into the skid by doing something like, okay, these guys failed to be the Nexus, essentially. Let's make them jokes. And have it be, because at this point, you haven't unveiled anybody. So anybody could theoretically be a part of this. Make them a bunch of jobbers that tried to come in and WWE ran them off, and isn't WWE so great? You could do that if you really wanted to, and just say, that's it. All right, they're jobbers, fine, and then drop it. Or give it to somebody who you don't mind being somebody that you can kind of push down and make them. I mean, he's not in the company anymore, but this is the first one I thought of, which was Eric Young, where if you were like, let's make Eric Young the leader of this whole thing, and he goes like, this is my crew, whatever, and then he gets his ass kicked, then it becomes, you thought that you could actually run this show and you could do that? What a loser. And then that becomes his gimmick or something.
Tony, all for embarrassing people.
At some point, that sometimes ends up being the best way that you can go about doing things, you know?
Yeah, I got it.
If you're not going to make them serious, then make them jokes. And if you're not going to make them serious or jokes, don't make them at all. By the way, shout out to Prakash, who says, it would be helpful if you start sounding more optimistic in your reviews. No offense, this event was a solid 8 out of 10 for me. Your review makes it look like a 4 or 5 out of 10. Well, what am I supposed to say that's optimistic about the Retribution side of things, for instance? Like, give me a reason to like things, and I like things. Later on, there's going to be some things that I praise on this card. I guarantee it. I figured I'd get some of these topics out of the way real quick, though. Just because they don't apply to anything in particular, so it's kind of like, hey, no Retribution? What the hell? Instead of saying no Retribution in this match or that match. How would you like to see them follow this up? Because at some point tomorrow night, we're going to get something Retribution-wise. Or maybe we won't. Maybe that's their whole plan, is that they're just not going to do things anymore. But is there like a guaranteed way that you think could actually make up for this on Raw tomorrow?
It's all for me, it's all riding on whoever the leader is. And if the leader is somebody major, like, John Cena, just throwing out names, or like, CM Punk, or somebody that it's worth paying attention to, that would turn it around for me.
Yeah, I just don't care about the angle, so I'm not going to bother putting any thought or time into thinking about how it's going to be improved. I'd rather just talk about SummerSlam.
Well, we do have several matches to talk about here. And...
actually, there's one thing that I care more about Retribution that I want to talk about. Who the fuck is doing Becky Lynch's voice in that ice cream sandwich advert they're doing at the moment?
Is that not Becky Lynch?
That's clearly not Becky Lynch's voice. Are you kidding me? There's no way in hell that's Becky Lynch's voice.
I wasn't really paying any attention to it. I don't know.
I thought she was just calmly reading an ad. That it
no, I picked it up on the Takeover show, and I was going to mention it on Takeover, but then we actually got distracted just talking about the card. Then I listened back to it on this show because I just wanted it just prick my ears a little bit. I think that doesn't sound anything like Becky Lynch. And if it is Becky Lynch, then I don't know what they did to her voice to make her sound completely not like Becky Lynch. It was just a woman doing a really weird, or just doing like a vague attempt to. Well, yeah, it was. I mean, it was a better version, a better impression than I'd say like the fake John Cena from WWE 2K19. But it was still as obvious as that to me.
Well, thank God that what happened at the end happened, because I was gonna rip that commercial to shreds yesterday because the 4 ice cream people weren't even on TV for the last 6 months. And I was like, wow, what a great representation of your brand.
Well, if it was a fake Becky Lynch, that makes sense, because these are fake WWE ice cream bars. They're not really the real one that everybody wants to get back. I do want to try them still, though. So, man, I'm kind of wanting to eat one of them right now.
I think I'm going to buy them tomorrow, actually. I do want to try them.
I don't even know if they're around my area or in all stores or what stores.
You can Uber Eats them through the ice cream shop.
Oh, I'm not paying like $30 for this shit.
I wouldn't either, but
yeah,
ice cream is good.
If they end up being $8, I don't think I'm gonna end up spending that much money. It depends.
I think they're like $4.
That's not bad. Anyway, we do have matches to talk about, and we also have something when it comes to the fantasy league. When it comes to this, now, Callum is going to reveal to us eventually some more information and such, but just to fill everybody in on anybody who didn't necessarily check out the predictions and stuff on how this is all going to go down.
Okay, so as we run down the results of the card here, we made our predictions, if you didn't check them out, on the Wednesday show, which essentially is we're going to use the results from the predictions. Whoever wins the predictions contest will get the first choice in the Fantasy League, which is returning next week in terms of the draft. So whoever got the highest number of correct predictions here will get the first pick. It's obviously second pick, third pick, fourth pick, depending on the order of how many people got predictions right, which I'll reveal as either towards the end or go maybe match by match who got it right, who got it wrong. We do have a definitive order, but I'll explain how we reached that at the end of it. But yeah, Fantasy League's coming back, and this card is going to determine it.
So our first match was Apollo Crews versus MVP for the United States Championship. And I'm going to say one thing right now that I'll not repeat for the next bunch of matches, but it applies to all three of them. The United States title match, the SmackDown women's title match, and the Raw tag title match. Seen it before a bunch of times. It's been at least like 10 times it seems this year. So since I've seen it and that they didn't do anything different, there wasn't really as much of a need to do it. When it comes to the Apollo Crews and MVP thing, we just got it a few weeks ago, and we've gotten it several other times earlier this year. And why the hell was this not Bobby Lashley or anything different? We didn't get a title change. We didn't get any kind of new story elements. It was literally just MVP lost again. So why bother?
It's still better than Carrillo and Andrade.
I thought that match would have been better. That match would have been better than this one.
I didn't have anything really against this match. It's just that I've seen it, you know?
Well, yeah, I don't have anything hugely against it other than the fact that MVP is still good, but he's in his 40s now, and he's not as spry as he used to be. So Apollo has to carry quite a heavy load in the match, as it were. And nothing in this match really caught my attention. The only thing that I even had in terms of my notes was at one point MVP hits a superplex on Crews and completely loses his grip on Crews as he's going down.
Oh my god, that was a little scary. The way MVP fell.
Yeah, but other than that, the only other thing that really that I had as an attention grabber on this one was the fact that I'd only seen bits and pieces from SmackDown, so this is my first real experience of the Thunderdome. Yeah. And I like pretty much every aspect of it besides the screens, besides the people. If those screens were just used as just extra devices in terms of lighting and effects and stuff like that, then that would be cool. But just seeing all those people, there's so many that don't give a crap that they're on there, or they're doing like the clapping along, and it seems a bit odd. There's people with the weird masks. There was that one thing that was posted around Twitter quite a bit of the person that managed to get a Fire Velveteen Dream sign up for being taken off.
That.
You did really?
No, I saw.
Yeah, it was just before the Banks Asuka match.
I saw somebody holding up a stuffed Pikachu.
That was
fun.
But yeah, that doesn't do anything for me. Like, makes it seem a little bit. It's really just weird just watching a load of people in terms of their just watching on the screen or through headphones or stuff like that. So, but everything else, the lighting, the special effects, is much better than the Performance Center. So that's at least an improvement on that regard.
Is it not throwing you off that the sound is just literally for the entire time?
It was in the first few matches, but because I didn't find myself getting invested in it. As soon as I started getting invested in matches, it actually added a little bit to it. And that may be due to the fact that I watch a lot of like Premier League football right now. Well, I was before the season ended, and they were doing artificial crowd noise for that as well. And I think that actually added to the experience once they got it a little bit, once they over time refined it and went right with it. I think this is an early stage of what we can expect going forward. I think that they'll be fine using that as long as they have matches that people are willing to get invested in.
Well, it's hard to get invested in rematch number 8 for a lot of these things.
Crews and MVP was not a great choice in that regard. I don't know whether I was excited or disappointed with the fact that MVP tried to do the Playmaker, because the overdrive is one of the worst moves in wrestling history.
Yeah, it's really bad. That's really just a disgusting move that never. And the first time somebody would have done that, should have just been like, You do realize that none of that makes any sense, right? And then
You realize you're just slamming your knee into the mat.
yeah. MVP's got a new theme. I think this was the first time that I heard it.
That's what I was going to ask. How do you know if this was brought up on Raw or anything? He brought back the VIP ballin' theme that he had at the end of his WWE run the first time around.
I don't remember this one at all.
And I like that the Hurt Business has merch.
Yeah, they should be.
Shelton has merch. Like, fuck yeah.
There's no reason why there shouldn't be, especially now that they have that printing thing. They should be pumping out different designs left and right and letting people do that. But you know what? As much as they can make new shirts and they can make a new theme or tweak his old theme or whatever they did with that, apparently they can't replace the graphic for the United States Championship.
No, I didn't notice that as well.
I did not notice that. What?
It's the old title popped up on the screen, and it's the old title still on the website. So they can't even take the graphic and change the URL on the website. And
That's pretty lazy.
They've had this belt for, at the very least, if you don't factor in the idea that Belt Fan Dan had a picture of it in December, they've had it for weeks and weeks and weeks, and nobody's made a graphic to have the screen pop up and have the United States Championship like that. Come on. Like, you're paying these people to do their jobs. Why aren't they doing their jobs? Or why aren't you telling them to do that? That's the point. Shit. I have noticed that the blogger thing that I go through with for my website has been changing because they've been doing a whole lot of different things with Google and stuff. Look at the website. Things are changing on Smark Out Moment and Fanboys Anonymous. You know why? Because I'm being a responsible business owner and I am going through and making sure that templates work and that, you know, things are loading correctly and whatever as much as I can. I wouldn't go all this time and just be like, it's the old belt. Who cares? Like, little details like that make me go, how many people work at this company? Really?
Or a lot less than used to a couple of months ago.
Still, they made these kind of mistakes before too, and there's no excuses when it comes to that stuff. Somebody had to click the graphic to run the graphic, and they would have known that it's the wrong graphic. So, come on, guys, get on the ball with this kind of stuff. You know, little touches like that just make it seem Bush League, and WWE should not be Bush League. But MVP loses again. No surprises there. And they followed up with Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin coming out to do nothing. They were banned ringside, so they come out after the match, and it's just, we're going to attack you. Well, you got away. Utterly pointless. They didn't need to do this at all.
Yeah, I really was hoping for the Cedric heel turn I had alluded to on the predictions. But no, nothing.
Then we had the Bayley versus Asuka match for the SmackDown Women's Championship. They played a lot into this idea that Bayley's shoulder was hurt, yet it didn't really come into factor at all throughout the night. Kind of disappointed in that. Nothing stood out to me. I'm glad that Bayley to belly is no longer a finisher that people can't kick out of, because that never worked. And ultimately, Bayley retains with a little bit of help from Banks. Logical, but to be honest, I mean, at this point, we've seen it a bunch of times. I don't care. Let's move on. That's basically how I looked at it.
Yeah, there was nothing in the match that really grabbed my attention too much. I thought that it was still good. These guys have good matches together, but yeah, the only real spot that caught my attention in terms of like something that was really good was Asuka catching Bayley in an elbow drop and then turning that into an armbar straight away. But then you have the Sasha involvement. Sasha gets hip attacked off the ring apron. Bayley uses that to cradle up Asuka and get the victory. So it made sense for the story they were telling throughout the entire night with these three. So I'm not too, in hindsight, I'm not too upset about how this match played out at all.
It was an okay match. It wasn't like anything to write home about, but logical story. And we basically have been talking ad nauseum about where this is going to go.
Well, if you want to write home about anything in particular, you should pick up a notebook on the merchandise shops on TeePublic and Redbubble, because there are designs for Smark and Moment, Fanboys Anonymous, and A-Mango tees that you can slap on a notebook there. That was a weird transition, but it worked, didn't it? Haha. So if you want to pick up a t-shirt or a sticker or a magnet or a laptop sleeve or a phone case or whatever it is, lots of different products, lots of different designs on all three of those shops, Redbubble and TeePublic, as I mentioned. Let's move over to the Raw Tag Team Championship match. The Street Profits, for the, 19th time this year, beat Andrade and Angel Garza. Can we be fucking done with this feud already?
This one I was very much upset about. Like, MVP and Apollo, I get it. But this one, why even do the fucking match? Why not have, I don't know, there was the Viking, Cedric and Ricochet. Why not have them just fight for the tag titles at SummerSlam? Just to do something different. What the fuck?
Or if you want to keep this going, which is still just like, guys, don't drag things out for 4 months. 4.5 months, really. Because it was prior to WrestleMania, so it's before the beginning of April. For like 4.5, 5 months, these people have been feuding with each other. You've done every match. It's been singles matches, it's been tag team matches, it's been triple threat matches, not triple threat, 6-man tag, mixed tag matches, Street Profits and Viking Raiders against Andrade and Garza and 2 other people. They have had Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, Angel Garza and Andrade fight each other enough times that I can't really keep track of whether that or the Bayley and Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks stuff has been more. It's the same stuff. Raw and SmackDown are just, here's 3 feuds for 2020 for essentially, and I'm so sick and tired of it because I like these guys, but crap, do something different. At the very least, throw in Mustafa Ali and Ricochet, make it a triple threat tag team match or something like that, just to do something different here. And their idea of doing something was, why don't we have Kevin Owens be on commentary? Why?
Well, he did announce that he would be hosting Aleister Black on the Kevin Owens show, so that is
completely irrelevant to what this is.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with the tag match.
Why didn't they use this match to promote Raw Underground?
Yeah. You could throw stuff out there.
Just put it because Ivar and Eric weren't in the match.
But I think in terms of the match itself, it doesn't make sense for it to have been extended out for this long. And if you're not going to have Andrade and Angel win, and it seems like they're now going down the route that seemed to be happening a few months ago with the fact that they seem to be teasing the breakup between these two again.
But now that they've flipped the breakup in that it looks like Andrade will stay with Zelina and Garza might go on his own.
Yeah, which I think makes the most sense because Garza's got more charisma than the two of them. I think Andrade would need Zelina still going forward. I mean, their act needs freshening up in the first place anyway, but Garza is probably the safer person to spread his wings and go out on his own if they do decide to pursue that way. I don't really see, like, Ford and Dawkins, they're still obviously a lot of fun to watch, and the match itself is pretty good, but they're running in place at the moment, so they need to have something new to do.
Literally, Montez Ford.
Match anyway. but at the moment they're just like stuck in limbo, even though they are the champions, and there isn't really a definitive competition against them right now.
That's so WWE tag team though.
Oh yeah, I'm not like I wouldn't expect it, but that's just the situation we're in.
It's just a shame because it's sort of like, I get it. You're working with not the full spectrum of everything that you can do, but that hasn't stopped WWE from doing repeat stuff a million times either. It's not like COVID's the only reason why this is happening. They're just being lazy and they don't want to do more work and figure out more angles and stuff. So they just repeat the same things a million times and it's so goddamn frustrating. Let's see here. Let's move on to the loser leaves WWE no disqualification match, if you could call it that. Mandy Rose versus Sonya Deville. We've talked about this, of course, on the hot tags as far as why this changed over to a no disqualification loser leaves WWE match instead of a hair versus hair match, and that's disappointing, but it's understandable because of the whole attempted kidnapping situation of Sonya Deville, which is just absolutely horrible. But keeping that in mind and knowing that there's a possibility that a lot of things hindered this in a way that normally wouldn't have been the way that they would have gone about doing things. First off, they would have wanted to be in front of a crowd. They would have wanted it to be a hair versus hair match. That would have happened a lot earlier in the year. And there wouldn't have been this kidnapping thing that would have been hovering over it. I still got to say this, though. I can't put the optimistic swing on this. This sucked. It was about a dozen knee strikes from Mandy, and they set up a table and do nothing with it.
That's a pet peeve of mine. What the fuck did you take out a table for if you're not going to do anything with it?
Why was it a no DQ match?
They threw chairs at each other.
Take that out. Does it change anything about the match? Nothing.
All right, listen. I'm sure that both women just thought that would be something special to add, and for them this was WrestleMania in the main event. I just didn't like it. I think that they're both capable of more.
Mm-hmm.
Mandy hit, as Tony mentioned, like 5 or 6 knees.
Oh, no, she did way more than that. I counted 5 after she had done a few of them. So there was like 5 over like 30 seconds.
She did the Angel's Wings. I don't know what she calls it for the victory. Sonya no-sells it. Kinda just walks off, fakes a temper tantrum. I'm trying not to be too mean because she's going through something traumatic. It's just that it sucked.
Mm-hmm.
And objectively, like just looking at it in the context of inside the WWE universe, this was just bad.
Right. If you have that bubble of knowing that there's things going on behind the scenes, you can be a little bit more forgiving. But if you ignore that, which, I mean, to be fair, that's not a part of the storyline, so that's something else to keep in mind. Just the same as if you watch a movie and the director's been going through stuff, or an actor's been like, dealing with alcoholism or something like that, you're not like, okay, well then that changes the movie. It doesn't really. If you just look at this in its own little bubble, it's like, oh, this was terrible in a lot of ways.
And it just wasn't good, and I don't want to be Cornette, but like, damn, she just no-sold the whole thing and got right up. I was like, was it really that bad of a beating then? I just didn't like it, and I'm sad that Sonya is leaving WWE. I wish her nothing but the best in the wake of that fucking psychopath trying to kidnap her and all of the disgusting DMs he sent her. But from a WWE standpoint, just not good.
I would describe the match as underwhelming, not flat out bad. I think that what they actually did in the story they told was not problematic for me. I think that some of the actual spots and transitions weren't as good as they expect them to be. They shouldn't have spent time setting the table up, because Mandy spent a good solid 30 seconds trying to put a table up and then not use it altogether.
Yep.
I actually like the finish. I think the finish worked really well in terms of her essentially Rose I like definitive finishes. Obviously, we'll talk about somewhere the finish came out of nowhere, but I like stuff where it's very New Japan style almost, where somebody just hits a bunch of moves to the person that they're beating repeatedly and just, okay, you're flat out done. So Rose definitively defeated Sonya Deville. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. She was the better woman on the night, so she can progress forward off the back of this. And yeah, obviously, hopefully Sonya comes back from this traumatic incident as strong as possible. But right now, if that can't be possible, and at this point in time, then you have to make Mandy look as strong as possible. And even though the match itself, I don't think delivered as well as I was hoping it to, it still has positioned Mandy with that victory to maybe go forward and be the next challenger for Bayley's Women's Championship or something else in the meantime.
I'd be down for that. I'd be down for Mandy versus Bayley.
Not me. I want them to just cut the cord and do the Bayley and Banks thing and just get it over with.
We know, Tony, but we have to talk about other things sometimes.
But that leaves Mandy with nothing really left to do unless they do the whole draft thing, which if they do the whole draft thing, then why are they bringing Keith Lee up immediately? And then, there's the whole, it's an angled web. And I don't have a lot of faith that...
Web, not a tangled web?
No, I said tangled.
You said angled.
Might have sounded weird, but I said tangled.
Okay.
I don't have any faith that they're spinning the right webs. It's going to be one of those things that you just walk into and you just go, nah, God damn it, and you ruin the whole thing, you know? Then after the match, Otis comes out and he's just like, hey, remember, I'm a thing. Here's my Money in the Bank briefcase. Let's celebrate.
Hold on. This dude ran down to that ring like he was going to cash in the briefcase on Mandy. He ran down with such, force. Yeah, I'm going to do it. It's my time now. That was the funniest thing to me. Mandy's attempt at a caterpillar was sad, and it just felt really weird.
What a complete waste of this Money in the Bank. And for that matter, you can't even say it's just a waste of the Money in the Bank. They've done nothing with Otis since he won that. It's like they gave him an albatross instead.
Well, because you might be shocked to learn this, but Otis should never have won the Money in the Bank briefcase.
Yeah, he never should have.
Otis is not a Money in the Bank guy. My hope is that the new, newly reformed badass that showed up at the end of the show just says, "Fuck you! You don't deserve that. I'm taking that from you."
I think it's been hampered due to the fact that Mandy clearly got COVID in between, in the times up to that point, because she was just dropped from TV for a few weeks. And so if Mandy wasn't around, there seemed to be no point with having Otis about. But yeah, he shouldn't. It's obviously everyone's nobody's blind to the fact that he shouldn't be the Money in the Bank briefcase holder. But yeah, I mean, if he didn't have that briefcase, then it's totally fine with him just being the comic relief and the support for Mandy at this point in time. But it's the fact that he's holding that briefcase, and the fact that the Fiend was completely laid out at the end of the night and he didn't cash in, so he's not even a good Money in the Bank briefcase holder. Just spotting an opportunity.
If you were Mr. Money in the Bank and you can justify your lack of a spot on the card for a 2-level thing, because you could be a regular superstar and get more. I mean, look at how many people are doing things on a weekly basis that have nothing close to the Money in the Bank briefcase. Akira Tozawa's got a bunch of ninjas and he pops up every week. He's won more championships over the course of this, technically speaking, because of the 24/7 title than Otis has won. And that's insane to think that, it's the truth, but it's weird to go, well, Mandy had COVID, so there's no reason for our Mr. Money in the Bank to do anything. Shit, really? Because his girlfriend's not there, you can't take this character who has a tag team partner and a Money in the Bank briefcase and could be a viable character on his own? He can't do anything? Come on. Writers, do your jobs. Think of something for the guy to do. Even if it's not the most engaging thing in the world, if you got him doing something, that's one of the benefits that happened with the Vince Russo era. There's not a whole lot of stuff that was amazing, but you really can look back on that and go, wow, everybody had a story.
I would like to clarify for anybody listening that we at Smark at Moment cannot confirm that Mandy Rose had COVID, but we're just making an educated guess.
If that's the case, or if maybe she didn't, but they were taking their precautions or whatever, but they wouldn't have kept them off TV during this whole kind of thing like that if that wasn't something there.
Well, considering, I just go with the logic with the fact that considering during her time off she was filming loads of stuff with Lana, and Rusev did have COVID. I think that's pretty clear as well. So yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that all three of them had COVID and were just staying together at that point in time.
Especially since they're not allowed to talk about it. So if she would have had that, she probably wouldn't have said, "Yeah, by the way, I'm sick."
Yeah,
I know I have to say allegedly that sort of thing, but to be fair, I'm not a journalist, so I don't give a fuck. So just
that's why the one who is a journalist just happened to just throw that out there.
That's one of the reasons why I throw myself out there as pundit.
I don't have that luxury.
I'm I do opinion things. I do the POV talky things. That's what I do. So Street Fight was the next thing. Dominik Mysterio against Seth Rollins. And Dominik earlier in the night had said to Ray, don't come out and help me in the match. I need to be my own man and do things on my own. And of course that didn't happen because Seth Rollins has Murphy ringside and it becomes, kind of a 2-on-1.
His father was going to be there. He said, don't
interrupt with the match.
Seth. Yeah.
And Angie got into this a little bit. they had a moment where they were teasing the idea that Seth was going to start wailing on her with the kendo sticks, and I was like, if WWE has the balls to do this, that'll shock me so much. Because it's like, over the past couple of months, because this feud's been going on fucking forever too, which I'm sick and tired of, and I really want it to end. This draft can't come quick enough. They have had, like, all the people that are involved with, like, Owens and AOP and all Samoa Joe and all these people at the beginning of the year and whatever, ignoring those, over the course of this time frame, we've gotten 3, I think, instances of somebody getting their eyeball slammed into the steel steps. Maybe just 2. I'm thinking of just 2. But they've had more than enough times where they've tried to. They injure Aleister Black. They take this guy out. They do this, whatever like that. They wail on Dominik like 30 times with the kendo sticks. And I was just kind of like, if you really want to be shitty about this, if they beat the crap out of Angie, it's going to be like, God damn. But I, of course, didn't expect that to be the case.
I first want to say this is where the show actually began.
Yeah, this is where things got actually decent throughout the night.
In regards to the Angie thing, Rey Mysterio is the worst telenovela actor in the fucking history. Because, like, the stuff 15 years ago with Eddie and Dominik wasn't great. But when he's handcuffed and Seth turns and looks at his wife and he's going, no, take me instead. It's like, he's not gonna, drag you off into the abyss and shoot you. He's just looking at your wife. Like, I did appreciate Seth Rollins saying, are you sure he's your kid and not Uncle Eddie's? While having Dominik in headlocks. But nobody picked up on that.
And I liked that Dominik did a frog splash. I wrote down in the wrestling news thing, Dominik does a frog splash in tribute to his real father, Eddie Guerrero. I like Dominik here.
Yeah.
He was good. I mean, he's not Pat McAfee good, which is so weird that that's a phrase to say now. But he did a pretty damn good job. Like, he looked like he fit in a way, and he held his own. So one of the major positives I have to say about SummerSlam is actually good job, Dominik.
He looks like TJP.
Yeah, without all the tattoos.
But his outfit really hammered that home for me.
Yeah, I don't think he should be wearing a hood in matches going forward.
Dumb. What is that?
Because it's just something that's just always going to get in the way, and it just like there was multiple points during the match where it's just like he's just taking the hood off because it's written up on his head or whatever. It's just like, why don't you just wear something that doesn't have a hood? Just cut out the middleman, essentially. Just if it's constantly getting in your way, then maybe you should just have a hoodless jacket instead. In terms of other attire, what the fuck was Seth Rollins wearing?
Oh,
yeah, that looked like it. I wrote that down too. I said Seth's ring gear doesn't evoke Monday Night Messiah vibes to me. It looks cool, but you got to put it on somebody else.
It looked awesome, but you know what it was? He was mocking the Halloween Havoc '97 gear from Ray.
I don't know that off the top of my head.
I mean, now you're saying that it does pick out for that side of things, but it just looked like, okay, he got Prince's designers to come in for. I think that's a Seth Rollins trope that every single SummerSlam he wears something absolutely ridiculous.
Is that where he debuted the fire pants?
It might have been the fire pants. Oh no, I think WrestleMania was the fire pants. But that was when he wore the bright white.
He did the Thanos that didn't look good either. Yeah. But so, I like this one.
The match itself was a lot of fun for the most part. It was a bit melodramatic in places, as you mentioned, with Ray and Angie and everyone else involved. But it made Dominik look good because he was in there with a top guy and held his own for the most part. He got very fiery towards the end when Seth teased going after his mum. And then he just was beating the crap out of everyone for a while. He almost got the victory. Rollins pulled it out in the end, though, because Rollins is the most experienced one in the ring. He was the one that was dominant throughout it. I do have to think that at some point, I know obviously there's the idea that want this feud to end and transition on to something else, but it kind of feels like it's been very one-sided in terms of victories towards Seth Rollins and Murphy. I think that to kind of cap it off and have the baby faces go forward, you need to have a tag team match and give them the victory, give the Mysterios the victory. So maybe that will happen at Payback, and then you move on past it. But right now, it just feels like there needs to be a babyface outcome to this at some point.
I hope it's just, let's do that at Payback, because I can take one more week of them on Monday Night Raw tomorrow night just saying, this is what happened at, I almost said Extreme Rules, at SummerSlam, and then Ray and Dominik say, hey, you know, you wanted to drag us into this, you brought Murphy into it, whatever like that, let's do one more match, whatever like that. I'd be okay with that, and then if that's the end of the feud, then we can move on, because ultimately, I think if they drag this out any longer than that, it's not going to have a payoff at all. It's just going to be kind of the way that the Samoa Joe and Rey Mysterio stuff did with Dominik. That just fizzled into nothing, you know?
Well, I kind of feel with Aleister Black going to be returning on the Kevin Owens show, that's seemingly where the next direction is for Seth Rollins, is a feud with Aleister Black. Because it was him and Murphy that took Aleister Black out for a while, so that seems to be the most logical direction to go with it.
Not too much interested in that, since we've seen enough matches between them too. I don't like it when it's like somebody's feuding with somebody, so then they have tangential people, and then the tangential people, I'm screwing up too much. You know the word, tangential people, just become, well, you've been feuding with them on the side, now I bet you feud with them for a couple months. Well,
frankly, who is there on the Raw roster that Seth Rollins hasn't feuded with? And beyond, well, yeah,
Keith Lee, bring him in and just be like, you now. Yeah.
But then beyond that, even beyond that, I know you can mention like the draft stuff like that, but who on the SmackDown roster has Seth Rollins not feuded with? Seth Rollins has been a mainstay and has fought pretty much from mid-card, tag team, and main event level across his entire run. Pretty much everybody. Maybe like one or two people he hasn't fought very significantly before. He would have had matches with pretty much everybody. So I don't really know what you can really do in terms of that. Like you say Keith Lee, but okay, so you want to have like a 5-month feud with Keith Lee just to make sure that there's someone else maybe coming around. Like by that point, you would have called up someone else from NXT that you could feud with instead.
I mean, there's Matt Riddle, Jeff Hardy, AJ Styles.
With AJ Styles.
He had a match with AJ Styles. They didn't have a rival.
Really
they had a world championship match for it.
They had a match. They didn't have a rival.
I don't even remember the match, let alone a feud that went on long enough or anything. When was that?
His first feud off. It was his first feud off.
Money in the Bank last year,
yeah.
I'm blanking on that. It's been too long of a year. But there's those. I mean, I don't think we've gotten, like, I'd rather get something like, for instance, this maybe doesn't fit exactly with the way that everything is right now, but you could always change up stories and stuff. I'd be more interested in seeing Seth Rollins against Ricochet than to see Seth Rollins against Aleister Black again, or Seth Rollins against Apollo Crews. You know, just bounce around on some different people here. Make Rollins and Murphy go after the tag titles. Have them against the Street Profits.
Yeah, because they didn't do that.
That hasn't happened already.
That's exactly what
Tony,
how the Street Profits won the title.
Won, yeah. With the help of Kevin Owens, who graciously sat in on commentary. It all comes full circle.
My God, that was, yeah. It's just, see, but that's long enough now, Val, that, my God, I'm all over the place. I'm so tired. That's been long enough that I forgot about that, so then it wouldn't bother me as much. As opposed to just the Aleister Black stuff has been
going
back
on.
And
listen to the February podcast and listen to how that should bother you back then.
Back then, yeah. But now
we have to, so we just have to wait another 3 months and then we could have Rey Mysterio versus Seth Rollins again. That'll be fine.
Well, now if you do it that many times in a row, yeah, I mean, that does get bothersome. And I'm sure that if you did Seth Rollins and Murphy against the Street Profits for 7 weeks in a row, I'd be like, oh my God, can we move on? Like that kind of thing. Yeah, it's just, I don't mind if you do rematches once in a while. And I don't mind if a rematch happens within a certain vicinity of a rematch or whatever. But like, I mean, you figure the Mysterio and Rollins stuff has been going on since the day after Rollins had fought Drew McIntyre. throughout that whole thing, every single week, Aleister Black and Humberto Carrillo and Kevin Owens and Mysterio have been a part of this whole thing. So it's been months of those people fighting with each other. I've seen Seth against Aleister Black. I've seen Aleister Black against Murphy. There's nothing that they're going to do over the course of this time frame that's going to be different. It's going to be, hey, why don't we book Aleister Black against Murphy because we can't have him against Seth leading up to whatever the next part of the feud is. And then it becomes, well, let's do a tag match, and it's Seth and Murphy against Black and blank,
Humberto
Kevin
Carrillo.
Owens or Roberto Carrillo. And we've seen them. So to say we're going to pick up where we left off with the thing from a couple weeks ago that we had for a couple weeks or a couple months or whatever, it's just, I've seen it. Move on. Aleister Black against somebody else. Rollins against somebody else.
I definitely think Keith Lee is going to be Rollins' guy.
Well, I agree with you in the sense that this feud needs to end at some point and needs to move on. It's just a case of I'm just kind of waiting for Rollins to go on paternity leave, go away for a few months, and then come back a little bit fresher. Because I
I'd
just
be
don't
in for
like
that too.
Cause I just don't like the gimmick, and I don't like him in this character. So I'd rather he just left for a while. Because he's been too ever present for a while.
Yeah, so that's one thing there. Then we move over to the Raw Women's Championship match. Asuka wins the title from Sasha Banks, and they had a pretty damn good match with an outcome that I feel wasn't as good as it could have been. I didn't really like the way that they executed the finish. That should have been like if you explained it as something happens with Bayley and Asuka ends up capitalizing and Sasha Banks loses the title. Yeah, okay. But if you go, what is the thing that happens? That's where I think that they fell short.
I would agree with you. I do want to take a moment to talk about Thunderdome because this was the match, as Callum said earlier, where the Fire Team Dream sign got onto the screen very briefly, and the person who made that sign came forward and also said that during the show they were being given cues by whomever the moderator is, and like if you didn't want to boo Sonya Deville, for example, they would just boot you from the Thunderdome. And I think stuff like that's interesting to talk about, so I just wanted to bring it up here. This fucking match ruled all kinds of ass. I thought this was one of the best Sasha matches I've seen in a while. And Asuka is just the best wrestler on the planet.
Yeah, I think that this was my match of the night as well. I think that the finish notwithstanding, and I do agree with Tony with that regards, and obviously the finish is an important part of a match. So, but I think overall with what they delivered in this one, it had the most, it was amazing after two, like, no disqualification matches essentially. And then you go through this, and this is the match which actually had me going like, holy shit, what are they doing in this regard? And that's a common thing with Sasha Banks matches on pay-per-view, because she has no regard for her own health and safety, and clearly not the health and safety of other people that she's working with either, considering that sunset flip powerbomb to the outside that Asuka's head clearly bounced off the floor.
Oof.
So,
that was one of the highlights of the whole thing, outside of the fact that it was dangerous, though. Looked
yeah,
good.
obviously. It looked really great, and there was a lot of really good spots in this match, like the reverse powerbomb, which immediately transitioned into a knee bar on Sasha Banks, that DDT off the middle rope, or the as many people referred it to, the Scotty 2 Hotty Dean Malenko spot from Backlash 2000.
That is a great reference.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, it's just one of those matches that loads of people just haven't seen, and then when you do see it, like, wow, these. Obviously, everyone knew Dean Malenko was great, but wow, Scotty 2 Hotty could actually work.
I thought of Edge and Chris Jericho because we had just seen the match from Global Warning where Edge does the execution spot from the top, and that's what it made me think of. But I loved it. I love top rope moves, especially when they're cool DDTs.
There was even like this minor one where Asuka gets Sasha Banks for an alley-oop, and she blocks it with a code breaker. And I thought, wow, that is just so smooth.
That was cool.
This was the match that I thought that Sasha and Asuka could have that I hadn't seen yet, and this is the best match they've had together in the entire time this feud's been running.
Now on to the finish, because 3 for 3, I also agree that the finish was not what I would have done in terms of really hammering home that the friendship isn't as strong as you might think. Because Bayley just fucked up. Like, she tried, she tried to help her friend. It didn't backfire or anything. It's just Asuka got the better of both of them.
Yeah,
They tried to... Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the story they were trying to tell is that in the first match, Asuka had the hip attack and it hit Sasha Banks. She fell off the apron and that allowed Bayley to capitalize. I think the story they were trying to tell, which I think was a stupid idea anyway, but is that Bayley didn't take the hip attack from Asuka. She dodged it, and that obviously that was quote unquote less of a distraction, which meant that Sasha Banks couldn't get the full advantage on Asuka. Whereas I think the smarter way to do it would have been have Bayley on the apron again, but have a case where Sasha almost hits Bayley, but pulls up the brakes because she doesn't want to hit her. Then Asuka puts in the Asuka lock, and then you have the win.
Or Bayley takes the hip attack in a weird way where maybe they factor in that shoulder thing from earlier. Like, I was thinking that maybe they would do something where she would have been like, oh, I was going to try to help, but I messed up my shoulder. I'm the real victim here. You see what happened with my shoulder? You just lost your championship, like that kind of thing. It's something where Bayley actively screwed things up instead of whatever the hell they were going for with that.
Yeah, we don't even have to be like actively screwing up with the Sasha Banks one. It just has to be something which would add more animosity to them. Just something where Sasha could feasibly blame Bayley for it.
And I get the spot of like she's in the Asuka lock and she's calling out for Bayley, and Bayley's nowhere to be found. She looks on the one side of the apron and the other side, but you could have done it more effectively,
Yeah. That's where one of those issues comes in where, like, I gave it a highlight. It's one of the better things of the night, but it's like, if I'm going to nitpick, the finish wasn't all that great. You got where you needed to go, especially since we didn't need to go in this direction to begin with. This was just a month-long stall.
It was a good stall. You know what? Having seen it play out, I think it was a good stall.
I don't think it's a stall. I think it's an evolution of it. I don't think it was a stall at all. I think that this adds it to it. Because if you would have just done something with Bayley and Sasha in the months prior to this, it would be effective if you're thinking about, I wouldn't say effective, but it would be sort of like, okay, finally they're doing it. Whereas now there's something actually fueling their separation.
And on the Asuka side of things, she was just gifted the title by Becky Lynch. You had to kind of...
Well, she won the Money in the Bank.
Well, yeah, but you know what I mean. She was a heel 1 second and then immediately a babyface. I think having this to firmly establish her as a babyface and then throw her into the feud with Shayna, who I hope it is Shayna, because they did tease that it might be Nia Jax. And no, please. But I thought this worked out better for Asuka than anything else before it.
I think a lot of this is going to have to be figured out in hindsight, too, because if you think about it, if they go with the Shayna thing and it ends up being kind of a Keith Lee and Karrion Kross situation where we go, well, if Shayna loses, that sucks. And if Shayna wins, then that sucks for Asuka. Then, we're not going to know until everything's over, of course. And then even then, you don't know because things can still change. But I ultimately look at a lot of this as kind of being like, all right, they had this thing where they decided to go in this direction and then they waited a month and then they went back to normal.
I would say that this match also, and the post-match stuff and everything in the build-up to it, has made me ask myself one salient question about what we believe to be like the inevitable Bayley and Sasha Banks feud. Is that who's going to be the babyface in that?
Yep. That's a fucking great question.
But that's the question that's been going on since this feud started.
I disagree, because I think prior to October of last year, the obvious would have been Sasha's the heel. But Bayley turning full heel in October, and having since then becoming so like an insufferable Karen type, I think you might want to say it's Sasha.
Sasha has to be the babyface.
Yeah, but Sasha's so much better in this heel role.
Exactly.
Like, her entire babyface run on the main roster was very underwhelming compared to the boss. She comes across with much more character. She's so much more charismatic. She feels more comfortable in her own skin when she's performing now in the heel role. I just don't think... I personally think it should be heel versus heel.
It should be.
Yeah, and it should just be a case of these two just are so like overconfident with themselves and they think that they're the best. and they don't transition their characters at all. They just have a grudge feud or a couple of matches or whatever, just get it out of the system, and they both come out the other side heels.
Ideally, not only would it have happened a long, long time ago, but it would be heel versus heel at this point because neither of them should turn, and it doesn't drag on even longer. Just have Banks versus Bayley for the SmackDown title. Banks beats Bayley. Maybe you can get one more match out of it, but don't make that the type of thing where it's like you have their match at Clash of Champions and their rematch is going to happen at TLC. So the next 3 months, we're going to tease that their rematch is going to happen. Don't do that. Don't make this a 3-year long feud that carries over from a multi-month feud from the past too. And just have Sasha be the new champion, and then you can move up to whoever else ends up being the one that beats her as a babyface. Maybe it's Mandy, maybe it's Naomi, maybe it's Bianca Belair, depending on the draft type situation. Who knows where people are going to land, but that would be the ideal, because you can do heel versus heel if you do it well. You can do babyface versus babyface if you do it well. The downside to it'll be that they probably won't. They'll probably turn Sasha babyface and not know what to do with her and struggle for a few months. Actually, no, they probably won't struggle for a few months because Sasha never retains her title long. So they'll struggle for about 3 days and then have somebody else end up winning it. But I still just want it to be over with. I just cut to the finish line. I'm sick and tired of watching the race repeat laps over and over again.
I think they're adding layers. And, mostly at this point, I think it's a major hit.
Well, we're going to have such a disagreement by the end of the year when we get to the awards, and I'm saying that the worst heel of the year is Bayley.
Yeah, you're going to be miles off in that regard.
Well, yeah.
I don't think anyone will agree, and no one will agree with you.
I'm sick and tired of her so much. I really hate it. Actually, I don't know if there's other people. There might be, Retribution might be a better option for worst heel, but that's not saying much. That's not going, because Bayley's so great in my mind. It's just, how awful is Retribution?
Bayley's great. You're wrong on this one, Captain.
Kevin?
Captain. I said Captain.
Okay.
Captain, not Kevin. I did call you Kevin the other day, though. I work with too many people.
I'm sick of it. Let's move on. I've said it a million times. Whatever, But one thing I'm not sick of is Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. I like this match. I liked it a lot.
This felt like just so good. So traditional WWE stuff that we just don't see anymore. Callum and I have been watching a lot of O2 SmackDown for the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast, and this felt like one of those matches. Two legit dudes just going at it. McIntyre finally gets a world champion's fucking entrance. Awesome stuff with the pyro and everything going off in the big arena. I loved everything about this match.
Yeah, this is a very, very good match. Obviously, I have a love-hate relationship with Randy Orton in terms of I don't think I'm ever more out of focus in a wrestling match during a Randy Orton heat segment. But he kept it relatively short in this one, which was useful. And there was a lot of great action here. I thought the figure 4 by McIntyre was a nice touch with the Ric Flair element, and Orton getting out of that by pulling the referee out of the way and delivering a thumb to the eye. There was colour in this match, obviously not a huge amount, but enough to at least be noticeable. The constant attempts at the RKO, and he kept getting away from it. Then the finish is just really, really well done, where he dodges the Claymore kick. You think that he's about to hit the RKO and win, but puts into a backslide, and you defend the championship off the back of a backslide. I think Rob was right in the sense that it has the great presentation. He got a really good entrance. He looks like as much of a champion, if not more, than he has done this entire time. And I think the thing with McIntyre is that we can look at it with the sense that what we talked about earlier with a lot of feuds repeating on each other. He's been going from challenger to challenger every single month, pretty much, having a 1 month or 1 or 2 month long feud with every one of them. And I think that's really working for him. He feels like a real champion to me.
And it's so much more refreshing because you do get different things. Like his feud with Dolph Ziggler is completely different from his feud with Randy Orton, and completely different from his feud with Bobby Lashley, and completely different from his Seth Rollins one, and completely different from the Brock Lesnar one to begin with. So that's where I get to where I go. If you could do that for the McIntyre thing, and you could do this logical thing, and you can do that logical thing, then why do you just do things like the Andrade and Garza and Street Profits thing where you're like that again and again and again and again? It's like that thing from The Simpsons of the you're filming the angles, and we did that scene, we did it 40 times or whatever. Well, we got to shoot it from different angles again and again and again and again and again and again. Drew McIntyre versus Mickey Rooney in the future, maybe. I don't know.
One thing I had to say about this match, didn't leave a lot of room for a rematch. Now it's WWE. You can always just do whatever the fuck you want.
Again and again and again.
Yeah, but I didn't leave a lot of room for like, oh, Randy Orton got right up and attacked him. You know, we're going towards payback now. It kind of felt definitive.
I don't want a rematch, actually, a payback. Even though I like this.
You're not in luck there, I think they are going to find some way to weave it into a match. Maybe just Orton will come up with something stupid in the same way with the Edge stuff. Just say, well, neither of us hit either of our finishers, so that's you just fluked to win. So you didn't pin me properly, you didn't lay me out, that sort of thing. And so, but realistically, it should be McIntyre out wrestled Orton, got the victory fair and square, and so it should be moving on to someone else. But you're not going to build someone else up in a week.
No.
So it's probably just going to be Orton again.
Keith Lee's got a feud with Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre.
That's fine. Well, no, but he could have a one-off match with Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, have the guy lose on his first night, on his first weekend. That sounds like a great way to
Retribution. You don't even need to kill him off. Retribution.
Yeah, have him get beaten up by the 5'8" but balaclava the midgets. That's going to really get him over as well.
Just air that sparring session that McIntyre and Keith Lee had.
There you go.
Just do that and be like, good enough. Now, I'd be fine with Payback not being like, here's 8 matches and these titles are on the line and whatever. I'd be fine with them just doing a little bit of like extra crap. Kind of like, I don't need the Raw and the SmackDown women's titles on the line. Have the tag titles and that'd be good enough. Yeah,
they won't be. It'll be the women's tag team titles. You'll probably get some sort of. They could maybe do the Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax match there if they wanted to do another women's match on there. You're probably going to get the Intercontinental Championship rematch. So there'll be plenty enough to fill it out.
Yeah, I mean, like, they can play around with some of those things, and ultimately, since it's Payback, it's not going to seem like as big of a deal if it's not the biggest matches in the world. Like, you can do, again, it should have happened at SummerSlam, but you can do the whole, like, well, we did Apollo versus MVP 100 times. We still didn't do the Bobby Lashley one, even though Bobby Lashley's the one that seems like he's the bigger threat to the title. You can just have him announce that he's going to fight for the United States title and do that match. You can get around doing Street Profits versus Andrade and Garza again. Please don't do that again. Please don't do just like Asuka gets a rematch against Sasha Banks or something like that. But
you think they have enough people for a championship scramble? That'd be a fun little one-off match for McIntyre.
They totally have enough people, but they won't do it. They seem like they don't want to have anything to do with that scramble match anymore.
I would say just take everybody he's already defeated, like Lashley, Orton, Rollins, and Ziggler, and just there you go. There's your 5. Do a scramble, and that's your one-off for the show in 7 days.
I'd be cool with a number 1 contenders match. Just not Drew McIntyre defending the title because he just did it the previous couple of days. So let's have a number 1 contenders thing. Sometimes that could be something that matters the most, you know?
Fair.
I thought it was funny that they did this whole backslide thing, and then they were like, well, you never see it coming. And I'm like, really?
That was good, though. Oh, no, it never saw it coming.
Like, we had the tagline for this event. It's like boiling down to a backslide. Okay. But I liked that it was a backslide because that made sense. That made it seem like, you know what? McIntyre can actually outthink some of his opponents too, and he's more than just his finisher. Different. I liked it. Before we move on to the main event, let me toss out one more plug because, why not? If you want to see other things coming that we haven't done and you want us to just do more things in general and you want to show your support on the monetary side of things, you got a little spare change in your wallet that you want to toss our way and you don't want to do that through the means like the merchandise shop and the applause button on YouTube, there are the join buttons on YouTube with the membership thing there and the Patreon. Now, they're both very similar. They both have about the same equivalency of tiers when it comes to, you got the $1 tier, which is essentially just like, hey, helping out a little bit. If you do that on YouTube, you get the little membership loyalty badge thing that goes along with your name and some access to some custom emojis. And then there's $5 ad block forgiveness. There's $10 for the Darkcast tier, the ones that are like Patreon and then YouTube exclusive eventually. But the Patreon things, we've been doing the 11th one is going to be coming up soon. And the Pick Your Poison tier is a part of that as well. That's where you get to request some kind of a special feature, some kind of a gimmick, some kind of an editorial or a podcast or whatever it might be, especially when it comes to you get the wide variety of Fanboys Anonymous content, and you've got the wide variety of Smark Out Moment content. There's lots of different options that you could do. If you take advantage of that and you request something, then it happens. That's kind of how that works. Mailbag priority tier as well. If you want to get mailbag questions answered and we're not doing the mailbag that month, or if we are doing it that month and you want to make sure that it's prioritized, then that is the case. So browse those if you've got the money and if you want to help out in that way, because that would help out a lot in trying to make sure that Smart Out Moment grows, that we get more substantial content out there, that we can get more people on the editing side of things, more people just pumping out content too, more people that can handle things like doing the audio and video editing of these podcasts so I can record more podcasts because I won't have to dedicate the time to doing that kind of side of things, and a more stable website. I would love to move over to a whole different WordPress system and get that up and running, but it costs way too much money for me to do it on my own. So obviously money is tight for everybody, but I do like to mention that just in case, so that way people know that there is always room for Smark Out Moment and Fanboys Anonymous to grow. The only matter that it hasn't is because time and money. That's it. So the main event was the Falls Count Anywhere match, again, between Braun Strowman and the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, for the Universal Championship. I've got positives, I've got negatives, I've got things in the middle.
Well said.
I didn't dislike the match,
I
but
didn't at first. By the end of it, I did.
yeah, kind of. One of the reasons why, this didn't really need to be a Falls Count Anywhere match.
Correct.
They really didn't. If you set this precedent, and we've seen it a million times and stuff, so we know that this is the case. A Falls Count Anywhere match is advertised as falls go anywhere, literally, throughout the arena, outside of the arena. You've had Falls Count Anywhere matches where it ends the backstage area. You've had it where it's, somebody gets pinned around the woods in a creek for the hardcore title, different thing. There's lots of options. So when you do a Falls Count Anywhere match and you essentially just fight on the stage and you go to the gorilla position and that's it, that's underwhelming. That's kind of the same as when you have a street fight, no DQ, anything can happen, all the weapons are being used kind of thing, and then you use a kendo stick. Or if you have a loser leaves WWE match, that's no disqualification, and you set up a table and you don't use it. I don't know why WWE on this night, they had several things like that, where it's sort of, let's do a gimmick, but then not do it, just to get people to tune in, because the more that you play around with people like that, the less people actually give a shit, and the more that people go, okay, so at Payback, you're going to have a something whatever on a pole match. Probably not going to have the pole based off of the way that you did the Falls Count Anywhere match. Whatever, you can't do the Boy Cried Wolf thing and expect to get away with it too much. Didn't like that.
They overhyped the idea that this was like King Kong versus Godzilla. We were not looking at the Parasite Godzilla that we were looking at yesterday when Tony and I did that podcast for Fanboys. I get the Fiend. I get that he's supposed to be an eccentric, eclectic character. He really does just come across to me as a dude in a mask. Now, thanks, Tony. It took a year, but thank you. He just came across as a guy in a mask. And I'm not sure why Braun Strowman is so fucking angry. What is he so pissed off about?
Well, not only is that something that they didn't really follow through with, nothing with Alexa Bliss.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the whole thing was built around Alexa Bliss, and then you didn't have Alexa Bliss. But I said, I want to say I said on the predictions. If I didn't, I apologize. That we were just fucking retconning back to when the timeline made sense. And we were gonna get the Fiend versus Roman Reigns before Goldberg interjected himself, before Braun Strowman got interjected, and it seems like that's where we're going. Because sure enough, it definitely felt like the match we're gonna get soon enough is the Fiend versus Roman Reigns.
Here's my perspective on the whole thing. I think that this match got changed at the last minute because Roman Reigns became available.
Yep.
And they decided, okay, that's where we're going with. So let's drop the Alexa thing. If we were going to go with Braun winning, or we are going to go with the Fiend winning, and we're going to have some sort of like massive involvement from Alexa Bliss, or there's going to be some more like chaotic way where we can continue this feud a little bit longer. Let's drop all that. Let's just have Roman come in at the end. Whoever wins this, he destroys both guys, and he's going to be the next champion in a couple of weeks or months, whether you like it or not. But that's essentially what I think is available. It's like, okay, Roman's available. Everything's around him now. That's
You know what
give him the US
scares me
Championship. Move on.
You know what scares me about that though is the COVID era, and then the pandemic changes and all that stuff has gone on too long to just go, well, fuck, we got Roman. Never mind Retribution and Alexa and anything else we were doing, because we've got Roman, so we don't need any of that anymore. Like, it's too insulting. Even though, don't get me wrong, I was very happy to see Roman Reigns, and I enjoyed everything he did because it seems like he's gonna come back with a little bit of an edge, but it just feels insulting in a way.
But is that in the slightest bit surprising? No.
No, but it doesn't have to be surprising to make me, dislike it. Like I dislike it because it's not surprising.
Yeah, that's what's frustrating about it. I like Roman Reigns. Like I've said before, I was in the crowd in the 2015 Royal Rumble hoping that Roman Reigns would win. I'm one of the few people who actually was happy with that. I've wanted Roman Reigns to beat Brock Lesnar the first time, not the 15th time when they kept dragging that thing out. Like, I like Roman, and I want Roman to be a bigger deal and to be whatever, but it is frustrating when you very clearly see that they're just transparent as all hell, that this becomes, let's put the belt back on Bray and act like the Goldberg thing never happened. And hey, Braun, buddy, thanks for coming out at the 11th hour and saving our asses when we decided to go in a different direction and then we couldn't do it. But now that you did the thing and you bailed us out at the last minute or whatever, can you go back to being nothing again? Because that's essentially what it is. And I got a feeling that this whole thing with Alexa Bliss, yeah, they might have changed it at the last minute, but that's still, you can get around it in different ways. You can do things like, for instance, if the idea is that the TV things matter more than the pay-per-views, which that's an argument people bring up all the time whenever the pay-per-views set up a TV show. They always go, well, the TV ratings are the thing you really are marketing towards now, whatever. And then when the ratings suck, people go, well, the ratings are just there to get the TV things to build up to the pay-per-views. It can't work both ways. But if you want to do something that's big on SmackDown, you can have Roman Reigns pop up on SmackDown. And you can finish this Alexa Bliss thing. But I got a feeling what they're going to do is that their idea, there's two ways that they can go about doing this, and they might even overlap a little bit. The Alexa stuff, I think it's kind of inexcusable. They set up the idea behind it and they didn't do it. Same as what they did with Retribution. It's bad booking and it's bad writing. They probably think, well, the Roman Reigns thing is going to get people talking and that's more interesting, so they'll forgive us. There's way too much. They'll forget about it. They'll forgive us. We'll figure it out. And if we don't, then oh well, deal with it. That happens in WWE, and it's disgusting. It's really just a worse way to run a creative situation. But I got a feeling they think, well, why don't we just pick that story up on SmackDown? We can still do Alexa and Braun and something. They could just feud with somebody else with no game plan whatsoever.
Well, let's talk about what Roman Reigns Look, let's talk about the verbiage he was using and how he just speared Bray and almost as if Tony wrote the words for him. Said, "You're just some guy in a mask. You can't be the champion." And then he beat the shit out of Braun and said, "You're not a monster unless I make you a monster." And basically, he just said, "I'm back, bitch. This is my belt again. Suck my dick." This is basically the gist of Roman Reigns coming back.
Does that not make it kind of obvious at this point, too, that if they're not going to do it, I'll be shocked, that they just have Braun Strowman lose to Roman Reigns at Payback?
A three-way dance?
No, just
No,
Braun
no,
Strowman in a
match,
match with a number one contender kind of angle, and maybe not even necessarily full-on number one contender, but just like Braun is pissed that Roman Reigns came and did that, and then Roman Reigns goes, "Yeah, well, again, suck my dick," and then he beats him, and then he goes, "Look at that, Braun just lost twice in a row, but we don't give a shit because that's all that matters is that Roman wins." And then you set up Bray and Roman for Clash of Champions.
I'll go one step further, and then you go right back to Fiend and Monster inside Hell in a Cell.
Maybe. Oh god, and then you go, well, Goldberg said he was supposed to wrestle a couple times a year.
Survivor Series.
Well, it wouldn't be Survivor Series. He's Universal Champion at that point, so it will face the WWE Champion, whoever that is.
Well, you would think that.
Match.
You would think that, but remember what they did the last time?
Oh yeah,
That's
they
right.
did. Oh yeah, they didn't do that last time. Well, I mean,
completely went against their own logic and setup.
Well,
the big
is it really the worst thing in the world if he just wins a 3-minute match with Goldberg at Survivor Series?
That doesn't bother me as much as the idea that they wouldn't do champion versus champion. Because that's, to me, it's like, that's the point of the Survivor Series at this point. If you don't do that, then why are you doing it? You know?
Well, they'll do it either way.
It's the big dog. Like,
or, you know, if they do that kind of garbage where they go, okay, well then to make sure that we do that, let's have Goldberg beat Drew McIntyre and win the championship or some, you know, like I want, whatever it is, I want champion versus champion to beat Survivor Series because like they can get away with it like that. I don't want to go around and do tournament things or do this title's on the line instead and this person's going to be fighting this person, whatever. Like the circumstance like the Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey thing, and they ended up having Flair. Yeah, that was the last minute. They didn't really plan on doing that. But when you just go, well, we want Brock to fight somebody instead, or we want Bray to fight somebody instead, or we want whatever. No, don't do that.
I hear ya. Goldberg beats Roman, and Brock beats Drew, and then we get Brock and Goldberg
at WrestleMania 37. Yeah.
No, it's Survivor Series. Fuck, we don't need to wait. It's Survivor Series.
But I mean, I feel bad for Braun because it's like, thanks for bailing us out. We're gonna not really give you that great of a title reign, and immediately when we get a chance to push you off on the side, we're gonna push you off on the side. And you know, thanks for whatever, buddy. Here's your storyline that went nowhere. And here's, you know, your two people that you feuded with over the championship and you lost to this guy. Not even in like any kind of weird gimmicks or anything. Not like there wasn't some kind of otherworldly bullshit or shenanigans or anything. It's just, let's pull off the canvas and have the exposed wood. That could have happened in the McIntyre match. That happened in Gargano and Ciampa. That's not the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, mystical monster energy type of stuff. It's just guys and wood planks. That's it. Like you set up this whole thing with Sister Abigail and Alexa Bliss, and you fight this guy that's essentially just IRS's kid, but for some reason we're gonna go into the idea that he's got mystical powers and whatever, and you fight him and it changes your soul and all this, and your finish is he hits him. He slams him on a wooden plank, and that hurts more. Come on, man.
Well, hold on. First of all, I want to talk about Braun Strowman absolutely getting punked out like a bitch. Because how the hell are you gonna uncover the wood yourself and then just immediately, like, not even like a counter or anything, the Fiend just, okay, thanks for doing that for me, pal. Sister Abigail on the wood, Sister Abigail on the wood, 1, 2, 3. Well, why? Why make Braun Strowman look that stupid? But then, well, that became clear once we saw Roman Reigns is back and we don't need you.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the idea, the Fiend changes everybody, right? For like 5 seconds. Seth Rollins was, I'm going to burn down the Firefly Funhouse. And then he goes into, was that before or after Hell in a Cell? I don't remember, but he goes into Super Showdown and gets punked out. And he's immediately, he's just Seth Rollins. Just, burn it down guy. Daniel Bryan, the Fiend changes people. He understands my mental anguish. And then Bryan's just the yes guy in 2 seconds after fighting the Fiend. They want to say the Fiend changes people. They did the same thing with The Miz. Oh, he was in my house. And then Miz just teams up with John Morrison. Then they immediately drop it. They always shit on Bray Wyatt, and then they're like, "Oh no, but it's okay because you're a cool character."
Well, the thing did change Seth Rollins because Seth Rollins' immediate transition into his current character is an immediate result from the. It is an immediate result from the thing.
But it really wasn't though, because then he goes.
It was. You're just not remembering it correctly.
It's weird because they went from the Fiend thing into the Survivor Series thing, and the Survivor Series thing kicked off a lot of it. So it's
but it was Seth Rollins' kind of like the belief.
It started it, yeah,
because he was like paranoid about the side of things, and then he decided to take on the role of I'm the Raw's locker room leader, even though obviously I don't have the title anymore, and obviously the Fiend had already been moved over to SmackDown, so he felt inadequate, and that's what led to him taking on this character of like a Monday Night Messiah. And I agree with you, the other ones, like Daniel Bryan hasn't felt any of the effects of it. The Miz, the effect that the Miz felt was that he turned heel.
Yeah, I'll give them the Miz.
But now he's just.
But nothing in the way of.
And they've changed Braun. It's changed Braun as well.
Well, let's see if they stick with that. Let's see if they stick with a psyche change, like the Miz. Okay, he turned heel, but then he was like, "Hey, ho ho!" Like he didn't gain an edge from fighting the.
That's what he changed. He became somebody who's interested in music career now.
Like it just they can do so much more with the character, and I think they really coast on the whole. Yeah, but isn't he so cool?
That's what they do, and that's exactly what this is all about. It's just let's go back to the way that it was, and hey, Roman's back. That's the point that we want to drive home. Who cares about anything else?
What's the big down?
I think it's beneficial in this time, the fact that there is no audience around, because I think that in this trajectory, within a couple of months, people will be shitting on Roman Reigns again. I know certain people already will be, but I feel like by this time, it's maybe not even by Hell in a Cell or Survivor Series even, people would be booing him out of the building as champion, because it's so obvious with this side of things about him. He's now back, and he just took out the two people that have been your main event stars for the last like 3 or 4 months or whatever. And so it's just a clear sign of, okay, we're back to shoving Roman Reigns down people's throats now.
Mm-hmm. Wait till John comes back and takes a literal shit on the chest of Bray Wyatt.
It's just the idea of you're wiping away the goodwill that you built up with him through the counter stuff, or the stuff where he was doing stuff through the mid card and building him back up, by just saying, okay, he's our guy again. No one else matters. That's just the thing that immediately draws some negativity. And there's already people talking about the fact that, and I don't agree with this right now, but people have seen that attack as a heel turn.
No, I don't think it's a heel turn.
I thought it was.
Well, just his verbiage makes it seem like he's either going with a super edgy new character where he's like, I don't say like an anti-hero, but he's someone who just takes no shit from nobody, and he's going to be a badass babyface like a Stone Cold Steve Austin type, or they've used this idea to try and push the Fiend as a new babyface, and Roman's going to be his heel counterpart now.
Either I thought it was definitely a change of character, because he was straight up being a dick. He was like, "Fuck you! This is my belt now. Thanks for keeping it warm, but you can't be the guy. I've always been the guy. I'll always be the guy. I'm the chosen one, essentially.
I mean, we'll find out for certain on SmackDown because I assume he'll have a promo segment at the very least, and we'll see what kind of verbiage he's using. But based on that side of thing, it at least gives a sense that he now is taking on a persona of like he knows that he's the guy, and he's going to lean into it rather than not embrace it as he previously was, or they would try to, hey, I'm just like Roman and I'm cool and all this other stuff. It's just more like, okay, I know I'm the guy now, so I'm just going to run with it, essentially.
I thought that
using
worked out
the
really well in
same
2016 when they did that with him.
using the same logic that I apply to everybody who always bombards the heel and face turn page, where I mean, I don't know how many things I've gotten over the past few days where it's just sort of like, you know, Drew McIntyre called Randy Orton a son of a bitch. Does that mean that Drew McIntyre's a heel now because he cursed? Like that kind of thing.
No, is that real?
That one wasn't real, but I've gotten similar things to that where it's pretty ridiculous. You look at it this way: Braun Strowman, everybody's like, "Oh, Braun Strowman's a heel, right?" And Bray Wyatt's like, "Well, Bray Wyatt's a babyface, right?" But Bray Wyatt is literally putting the mandible claw on Alexa Bliss, and Alexa Bliss hasn't turned heel in the slightest bit. She just, she got pushed down by Nikki Cross and got attacked by the Fiend and was trying to get Braun Strowman to not be a dick. So, like, she's full on babyface still. Strowman's being more of a heel. Bray Wyatt hasn't stopped being a heel. And Roman Reigns attacked two heels. So it's like, two negatives kind of cancel each other out, essentially.
Well, yeah. But it's kind of like in a heelish way.
Yeah.
But then again, you can revert that by taking on someone like the Stone Cold character, because Stone Cold wasn't a traditional white collar baby face, or whatever you want to call it. Like,
Stone Cold was like, let me give the stunner to JR just for the hell of it and stuff. I mean, I think that's their idea of making him edgy, and they kind of just think, well, if Roman is more of a badass, then people will like him more, and how about we have him do that?
I just want to take the Cody Rhodes approach. Heel and babyface are antiquated terms, and we're just telling stories.
But you know what, though?
Cody's bullshit when he says that.
Yeah, he is.
100%. He's so full of shit.
He totally is, because, he follows comic books and stuff like that. He understands the idea. Yeah, heel and face may not apply, and there may be gray areas, but there is always an antagonist in a story. If you're telling stories and there is no antagonist, it's not a story.
Not telling a story, right?
Then you're just writing in a journal or something, And yeah, somebody might not be a full-blown heel the way that it used to be with Dusty Rhodes and stuff, where it's like, oh, Dusty Rhodes is like the working man, and he's fighting that dastardly Ric Flair, and that's, full-blown Rocky and Bullwinkle type stuff. That might not be the case anymore, but if you have a feud, one person's the bad guy and the other one's the good guy. It happens even in babyface and babyface feuds. Look at Captain America Civil War. Captain America Civil War, you got Iron Man and Captain America. It's a Captain America movie. You know who the hero is in the movie? It's not Iron Man. You know what I mean? So it's kind of, in the Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt feud, Braun Strowman's been acting more like a heel. Bray Wyatt's always been a heel, essentially, except for when he was with Matt Hardy for a little bit there. In that feud, neither of them were really a babyface, but if you're going to root for one of them to be a babyface at the end of it, it's going to be whoever ends up being the nice person to Alexa. And then you throw Roman Reigns in there right now, and he's just like, hey, fuck you, this is my belt. And then, okay, well, I guess he took down the monsters, and he's the babyface. Unless they do something where it ends up being like, he comes out on SmackDown and he's like, yeah, I'm going to be the champion. I'm going to be both of you. Also, give me a little kid to punt. Then it's going to be like, I'm pretty sure he's a babyface. What do you guys think about this whole thing people are doing where they're going, well, Kevin Owens mentioned Retribution. And, Braun Strowman came out with Wreck It and Leave. He said Retribution. What? I don't think either of them.
I think I'm going to reserve judgment on Retribution until I see their next appearance. But I'm really beginning to wonder if this is a vehicle to bring back Cena.
And as I said previously, you couldn't pay me to take any attention to this angle right now. So I'm waiting for it to give me a reason to care about it rather than me having to try and find it.
Well, yeah, but you don't got to tell Tony that he can continue to not pay us for everything we do.
If you want to pay Callum to pay more attention to
I was
this,
like, you couldn't pay me to do it. Do the
No,
points here and you think about caring about
Well,
retribution.
the money.
there's that one dude out there that's got $8,000 right now, and he's like, "Well, I was going to pay Callum." No, yeah, that's where we left off.
Hey, Rob, he'll have an opinion about it. That's totally something need to do.
Please. Pay me.
Yeah, right. You want more dark casts? Go ahead, But that's how SummerSlam ended, and that means that's basically the pay-per-view rundown. Now we need to know how the Fantasy League worked out.
Okay, so based on the predictions that we made on the Wednesday show, I'll go in reverse chronological order so we can build this up a little bit. So in last place in terms of predictions, with 2 correct predictions out of the 8 matches we selected for, is Stephen Wago.
Goddamn Wago, too.
He got Seth Rollins winning and Mandy Rose winning, and that was it.
Wow.
In third place, so picking third in the draft, is Rob with 4 correct predictions.
Yeah, I fucking sucked.
So he got Mandy Rose winning, Seth Rollins winning, Asuka winning the Raw Women's Championship match, and Bray Wyatt winning the Universal Championship match. And then there is a tie with five
Wonder who tied.
predictions each. Yeah, funny enough, it's Drew actually got him.
Yeah, goddamn Drew.
It's me and Tony with 5 correct predictions each. Tony having the one where we differed was that Tony thought that Dominik was going to win when Seth Rollins won. I thought that Braun was going to win when Bray Wyatt won. Other than that, we're all pretty much the same. Obviously, you predicted a no contest in the WWE Championship match, and everyone else predicted Randy Orton, so nobody got that one right.
Damn it.
Right.
And nobody got Andrade and Angel Garza right because everyone predicted they were going to win the title rather than But the difference maker was the timing of the Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt match, which turned out to be the main event, even though I didn't expect it to be. My prediction in time was 6 minutes 35. Tony's prediction was 9 minutes 37. Even though they don't have the official time up on Wikipedia, it was definitely over 12 minutes or around about 12 minutes. So that means Tony was closer. So Tony will have the first choice in the Fantasy League draft.
Come here, Bronson Reed.
Yeah. So it'll be So it'll go Tony, me, Rob, Wago, and then it will snake round with Wago, Rob, me, and Tony for the 8 picks that we're going to make that will make up our teams.
I think the one year that I won the Fantasy League was the one that I got the first pick. I don't remember for sure.
Well, hopefully that's a trend that doesn't continue because I was hoping that I was so annoyed. I was so annoyed with the because I was doing really well up until the Randy Orton, because I thought, okay, well, if Randy Orton wins or it ends in this no contest thing, I just thought, okay, I just need Randy Orton to win this match and I'm home and hosed. And then it's just like Drew McIntyre wins, and it's like, okay, now I have to rely on Braun Strowman beating Bray Wyatt. And as soon as the match started, as soon as the main event, I knew Bray Wyatt was going to win the title. So I just, I knew that I was.
If I just would have picked Bayley winning straight up, it would have been 3-way tie.
Yep. But Tony still would have won. You would have come second in that regard.
Yeah, because he fucking Price is Right, didn't he?
Totally Price is Right, did you?
I've decided to take so people are aware now going forward, I've decided to take that out of the equation. Even though we will still have like a match prediction in terms of time going forward, I will ask people independently after the show to give a time, as opposed to just wait for someone to arbitrarily give the final number, which is 1 second above what the other person's time was.
Well, shit, if you're going to ruin my strategy the whole time, then this thing's fixed.
That's something to look forward to next. That's something to look forward to next week. Then,
hopefully, around Tuesday is when we will record this. This week is still crazy. It seems like it should end, but then the WWE was just sort of like, yeah, more. It's like, all right, I guess we're just gonna keep that going. So
more asbestos, more.
Yeah, more asbestos. So hopefully Tuesday we record that and get our teams all sorted out and stuff. Did you guys pick team names yet? I have a team name in mind. I'm not going to say it until we do it, but you have team names?
I have one in mind, but I might switch it up.
Yeah, I have one in my head right now. I have a couple, but I think there's one that I'm going to go with, but I don't If something better comes along because I'm not too proud of it, then I'll think of that. If not, I'll just go with it.
I only have one team name, so if anybody picks that, I'm screwed. But if you would like to toss out suggestions of team names for us in the meantime, maybe you end up having some better ideas that we go with instead. So drop them in the comments below. What do you think that our team should be named?
I'm totally taking the mango tree. Fuck you.
No, that's not the name of it. The game plan is to do that sometime before we do the payback predictions. Then, of course, throughout the week, we've got the hot tags after that, and then we've got the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast, and then we've got the payback again, but for the post show. So we've got another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 podcasts coming your way just from Smark and Moment over the next few days. And that's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be a lot of fun too. Hopefully, at the very least. Not some kind of like weird technical issues or something like that, but yeah, if you are subscribed to the YouTube channel and you're following us on Facebook and Twitter and maybe the RSS feed on smarkandmoment.com or any kind of means for you to get the information of when these new things come out, then you'll see them when they come up. And there might be some seeing some other things as well. I mentioned before that I'm working on plenty of different things to try to update some stuff going forward. And, maybe I'll figure out a way to get some of that crap up. It's all timing and money. You need money for time. You need time for money. So as the cycle continues, just keep paying attention, just keep showing your support in whatever way it is, even if it's just to listen to the shows and to click on the articles or whatever it might be. I don't know. Anything that you do is awesome. It makes you an awesome person. So I mentioned before that the next couple of things are coming up, and one of those things is the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast. And to tell you a little bit more about how that is all about and where you can check out that dark cast and so on and so forth, Callum, fill 'em in.
So the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast, if you haven't checked out any of the episodes before, is where me and Rob go back to the year 2002, where Paul Heyman was the head writer of SmackDown, and just reviewing every single episode that took place under his stewardship. So we're up to the most recent episode from most recent Saturday was for the SummerSlam Go Home show for 2002, which is followed by a special episode which we put on the Patreon Darkcast, where me and Rob review SummerSlam 2002. And then coming up next Saturday will be the next edition following that, where there is a special gauntlet to determine who will be the next number one contender for the Undisputed Championship. So hopefully look forward to that episode as well. If you want to watch it in advance, make sure you get ahead on that. But other than that, you can follow me on Twitter at WinkMeister14. Check out all the articles on smarkandmoment.com, and hopefully you look forward to the Fantasy League next week.
Yeah, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DudeFelice. You can check out everything else I've got going on in addition to the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast. You can look at the WrestleZone and the WrestleZone Daily, Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcasts, and on Facebook and on YouTube. There's Fightful Select. Sean Ross Sapp works very hard on these scoops. Show him some love. You can check out the Fanboys Anonymous podcast that we just recorded less than 24 hours ago, where Tony and I review Superman Man of Tomorrow, a blind review as we watch the thing, and you just get our initial takes on it. That was a lot of fun. I want to do more Fanboys Anonymous, so Tony's going to plug the Patreon again. Tony?
Patreon.com/Fanboys Anonymous. I really, 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 really want to do more Fanboys Anonymous content. I really want to get the chance to go through all the things that have happened with DC Fandom. I really would have a big lot of things to talk about when it comes to the new Batman trailer, because I got a chance to watch that, and I got opinions. Some of them good, some of them and plenty of other things like that on the superhero spectrum, on the movie stuff, TV show, video games, comic books, anything on the geek culture side of things you'll find over on fanboysanonymous.com. So show some love to that thing over there, the sister site, the blue brand, whatever you want to call it, fanboysanonymous.com. But if you're still just sticking around with this Market Moment stuff, still like you, still good, and hopefully you'll be sticking around for all the other things coming up in the future. But for now, though, this has been another Smart Out Moment, and we're being counted out.